Hopefully a more positive video this time round. Feeling a bit better. I'll talk about that all after tonight's race. Tonight, the new map on Mercury has been released. Urukazi, I think it's called. We're doing one of the routes tonight on our race. I'm going to be honest, I can't remember the name, so I'll let you know when I do the voiceover bit. And I'm not quite sure. It seems relatively flat, but I think it's got a bit of a hill at some point in it. It's going to be new. It'll be interesting to see what Urukazi is all about. This route, I think, goes around sort of the outside, so hopefully we'll get a good feel for it. But I'm going to get myself ready and jump on the bike. Hopefully, this week, like I did last week, but not in the World Tour race, hopefully I can stay with the group for the whole race, but we shall see. So this is one lap of Island Hopper in Urukazi. I'm really looking forward to having a look at what Urukazi is all about, how much of the other Mercury worlds it kind of integrates into it, and how different it is from the others. The weirdest thing, though, going into this is not having a clue about the course profile. I had a very quick look before the race, and there was sort of a little bit of hill in there, but I think it's relatively flat. But it's a really weird feeling going into a race not having any idea kind of where you're going to hit hills or bumps or anything like that. Not that I attack on them or whatever, but I like to prepare myself, because those are the points where I have to kind of put out that little bit more effort, maybe a bit earlier, just to make sure I stay within the group. So can't really be doing that today. We've just gone over the start line, so we've got 18 kilometers to go. Yeah, and the D group here have pretty much come together pretty well from the start of this race, and I think we stayed together for quite a long time actually. So a nice big D group today. So first impressions are really good. You see those trees in the background. I don't know whether they're carved. Are they trees? They look like trees. And we're just about to head over this little bridge over the blue water. You can see the sandy beaches. So very different from, definitely very different from Neokyo, and the nighttime feel and the neon. This is quite nice with the green trees, lots of trees around and greenery, flowers, and a lot of this route, I think, is pretty much around sort of the sea area and coastal areas. But yeah, really nice to start with. Where are we? We're over 2 minutes in, and I'm sitting within the group, feeling okay at the moment. Well, doing quite high in watts, 270 odd watts, heart rate at 150. We also have John, who did some of the recording. He unfortunately can't ride with us at the moment, but he jumped on and did some recording. This is the C group that we can see from above, currently following M Blundell, as they're 45 seconds into their race. We also have the B group, who Chris Waring has taken a video of that group, but they are yet to leave. I'm not quite sure why. Chris is moving very, very slowly out of the pen, obviously waiting for the time to start. But yeah, a couple of other videos, and yeah, first impressions really good. Look at those fish on either side of the road. Lots of these wooden planked bridges as well, which are really nice. Just about to hit the first sandy bit then, and a bit of discussion afterwards is actually the rolling resistance is pretty much the same as tarmac, which is interesting, because one of my concerns about having sand roads was that it might create another jungle, and the jungle is difficult. I do not enjoy riding through the jungle. It feels like riding through treacle. I was concerned that they create a similar thing with the sand, but it doesn't look like they have. Now, whether that's going to change in the future, if they've got a set of, I don't know, specific sand bikes that you can use, and that will change, I don't know. But at the moment, it seems like it's a pretty standard tarmac rolling resistance. Nice views though. Just heading out over the water, just see greenery and blue everywhere you look on this island at the moment. Let's have a look at the B category, which must have left now, and they have. You've got C Waring, C Jupp, N Corbin, Noel in there, John Guthrie as well, and D Stark. That is the B cat group trying to chase down the others. It's slightly different for the B cat group in these races, because they have to chase down the other group. I've noticed in other in the World Tour events, sometimes they kind of take it slightly easier until the sprint at the end. But is that someone at the front on a mountain bike or something there? Maybe thinking it might help on the sand. just coming up to 9 minutes. You can see the waterfalls in the background there, and we're heading down the Tide Pool Sprint. Not that any of us in the DCAT are using the opportunity to sprint in the middle of the race. Let's have a look at what we've got in the DCAT. I can see Tim Glasby, Latix, S. Clark, A. Hugavine. It's moving around as it normally does. Crocs. Yeah, and a few others in there as well. Craig's in there too. All sticking together pretty well. Can't see, can we see a CCAT? CCAT about 1 minute 35 behind us. Let's see from the BCAT, what's their gap? They've got a 45 seconds. They've made up a bit of time on the C's in front of them. So I'm sure at some point they will be catching onto the back of the C's. As usual, will they work together to close that gap to the D's? I think if there is a bit of a climb in this one, a bit of a hill, there's a possibility that the quicker categories are going to catch the D group today, I would think. Just starting to realise now that we're about to come to a bit of a climb, and we're probably more of a climb than I had in my head. You see, I've already lost the back of the group here before we get to it. But this is a big sort of 360 turn up some wooden planking. Oh no, it changes to dusty gravel. I don't know whether the rolling resistance there is any different, but I put in a bit of a burst to catch up with the back of this group. And this is when I start to struggle, as I normally do. This is probably a longer hill than one I can just sort of punch up and give a bit of an effort to just get over the top of a hill. We get a little bit of a way around this, but I know I'm going to start struggling in a minute. Whilst I'm doing that, let's have a look back at the BCAT and find out how far they've closed that gap to 35 seconds now. So they're making a quick way through the time difference there. Let's go back to me. I'm still in with this group. You'll see in a second. I'm up out of the saddle, trying to put out just a long enough effort to be able to stay with the guys, but you can see they're starting to gap me now, starting to disappear off, and I'm struggling to hold on. I've put out lots of red zone effort just in the attempt, but I don't have it. And then unfortunately, I mean, we've only got, what's that, a quarter of the turn left to go before we get to the top, and I'm kind of like, come on, I need to catch on to the back of these guys before I lose it completely. You can see the C group are just making their way up the bottom of the climb now. You can see them coming up and around the corner, but the D group have disappeared up the road ahead of me, unfortunately. So we came down off that climb, a little bit of a downhill for a while, and then a bit of flat as well. And I've been riding with Crocs for a little while, but we hit this. It was just stepped up to 4%, slight incline here. It's gone up to 5% now. Trying to hang on to the back of Crocs before I see him disappear up the road. We've got the C group are now just 14, well, that's like 12 and 13 seconds behind me, a couple of them. As you can see, Crocs is disappearing up the road. Head back to the B group. We've come back to them at the point where they're literally catching the group now. So that's the B's and the C's together. Let's see, because this is the next kind of hill. It does the same thing as the previous one. It goes around in a big 360 loop and an incline, and then you go over a bridge. I think that's me. They've just passed. They have just flying past me now as they head up. So that's the B's and the C's that have disappeared past me, and they're heading towards the other group of D's. So the rest of the DCAT then or the front of the DCAT, are still 15 seconds ahead as they head across this wooden boardwalk on the Shiza Sprint over that waterfall. Look at that view. Amazing. As they head forward. So the 15-second lead over the rest of the group, as they themselves are just heading over the same sprint. That doesn't feel like 15 seconds, but it says it is. They're all riding together pretty much. Who is that? I'm trying to work out. Is that John Guthrie, I think, on the mountain bike maybe? Always seems to be out the front of the group, which is an incredible effort. But yes, closing that gap down to 13, 14 seconds now. So I'm sure it won't be too long. You can see the DCAT group in the front, the dots on the screen, until they catch. They're heading downhill a little bit now after the climb up to the top. You can see here how close the C's and B's are to catching the D's. Seeing them within touching distance. It's 4.6 kilometers left to go. heading along another sandy bit before sort of, oh, is there another climb coming up? I can't remember if I'm honest, but 4.5 kilometers left to go. Let's just head back to me. You can see me riding all on my own. I've still got 7 kilometers left. I have got about 15 seconds behind me. I have in my mind got the aim of keeping that gap, trying not to get caught. and M Blundell actually working together behind me. So yeah, my aim at this point is trying to keep those behind, but I'm struggling again. Another race where I'm struggling a little bit just to keep the power down, trying to just, I don't know, it wasn't cardio this time. It felt like my knees. I'd ridden the day before on one of the Mercury routes before this race, and I don't normally ride the day before. And I could really feel it in my legs, and I was starting to struggle just from sort of muscular, not pain, but I don't know, just had nothing left in the legs as opposed to it being a cardio issue. We head back over to these guys. You can see they've caught up now. And is there anyone? The D's are still sticking in with them. It's been interesting to see how this splits out. You can see there's definitely a split in the pack if you look at the dots in the top right. I don't know who's in which pack at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure that'll sort itself out. Down to 3.6 kilometers to go already. Jay Guthrie putting out orange level numbers there, over 8 watts per kilo for a minute. I guess trying to bridge this gap to the group that's in front of him. You can see that's a brilliant view of seeing where the splits are. Someone out the front, then a group, and John trying to catch. Latix from the D group has managed to stay in with the Anne Hugavine, in with the front group. Back to this group, A. Evans, C. Cole, A. Pimer, Tim Glasby from the original D-Cat group. Jay Robinson a little bit further back as well. Let's see if we can see anything from the point of view of this group. They've got 2.2k left to go. Chris Waring is in with the front group. Have we got anyone else from... It doesn't look... I think it's moving around a lot. Latix is in there. Craig is with that group as well. A. Hugavine. They seem to be the guys that have jumped across as the higher category groups came through. But 2 kilometers left to go. 1.5 kilometers left to go. And D Stark was throwing down a feather and pumping out nearly 5 watts a kilo. Who is going to go with him? Is it going to split the group at all? See Waring up into the nearly 5 watts per kilo. Noel doing the same. Got PC and N Corbin. And they're going to close that gap down to 1.3 kilometers to go. You can almost see the finish line from here. I think it has spread the group out very slightly. Noel up in over the 6 watts per kilo as well, trying to close that gap down. And yeah, D Stark still over 4 watts per kilo. Noel up near the 5 still. Still some big numbers being pumped out here. That's an interesting little thing to go through on the route there, isn't it? Into more sandy stuff with the trees either side. That's a great little view. Noel has now taken out over the front with C. Waring. Has it split the group behind? It has. Ahu Gavine and P. Morris are now dropping 3 and 4 seconds back. Latix as well. Craig 5 seconds. It's definitely split the group. Jay Guthrie 9-10 seconds back. So it looks like the winner will come from this group here. That is kind of smaller inside. C. Jups in there. N. Corbin, D. Stark, C. Waring. This little incline came as a bit of a surprise to me, definitely, over this boardwalk. Little 3-4 percenter. It starts to level off now. And I think, yeah, there's a 4-second gap to P. Morris, who's putting out big numbers, as is A. Hugavine. 6.3 watts per kilo. I guess trying to close that gap, but it might be too much of a gap. I lost the back of the draft. This might go to one of these riders here. Into the last 500 metres. Wiggly bit round the corner. This is very interesting. This is very different, this wall section here. I don't know if it's a dam or what, but it's very different to the rest of the island. Sort of an industrial area. 300 metres left to go. Onto the paved section of road. Who is going to go first? Or 200 metres. Someone's going to go. C. Waring, N. Corbin, 8 watts per kilo. 10 watts per kilo. Who's gone first? C. Jupp following him. Chris over the 13 watts per kilo. I think he's going to get there to the line, is he? I think he's beaten N. Corbin and then N. Slevin sprinting as well. C. Waring, P. Zizu. Let's head back and see who else we can catch over the line. Missed some of the others over the line, but here is A. Evans putting out 5.2 watts per kilo now, trying to keep that 3-second lead over that group behind. Tim Glasby, here is that group behind. A. Mott, H. Sophocleus is going for it. I think he's going to win that. A. Mott, then BT, and then Tim Glasby. Back to A. Pimer, who will be the next over the line. C. Cole, 30 seconds behind. No, it's A. Cole next over. C. Cole next over the line. Sorry, with A. Pimer 30 seconds behind. Let's head back to me. I am still got 1.8 kilometers left to go. Got AH still 15 seconds behind. M. Blundell has caught and passed. Is now nearly a minute ahead of me. And yes, I'm just willing the end of this now. This is a nice little section. It's a sandy section that links some of the islands together. Just heading left before heading back to the sort of paved area we just saw with the others that were sprinting on it. You can see the big mountain in the distance. Maybe one day we'll get to climb that. Who knows? Maybe not that I really want to. I don't really know, but you can see heading back over to the main island, and I am still trying to keep that gap behind. I'm keeping an eye on AH's watts per kilo and just trying to match it, just to kind of give myself a bit of a challenge towards the end of the race. And here is the end of the race. AH has closed that gap right down. In fact, on that sort of 4% wooden incline bit, he definitely closed the gap quite quickly. Had to put out a bit of an effort to stay ahead. You can see the red zone effort in the graph below. Finally over the line, and I was pretty glad that was over. Completed the route, Island Hopper, but got there in the end. Lost the back of the group, and once I lose the back of the group, that's pretty much race over for me. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the results. First to sixth, finishing really close there then. C-Juck winning it in the sprint as we saw. N. Corbin in second, N. Slevin. C. Waring fourth, P. Zizu and D. Stark all within just over a second of each other. A. Hugavine holding on for seventh, D. Cat Rider. That's awesome, managing to stay with that group as they came through. P. Morris in eighth. L. Warrior coming in ninth. C. Finlayson 10th, just less than a second behind J. Guthrie. And then that sprint that we saw, A. Evans, H. Sophocleus, A. Mott, and B. T. 2.5 in 15th. Tim Glasby, 16th. C. Cole, A. Pimer, J. Robinson, MK, J. Gilligan in 21st, 35.07. S. Dearden in 22nd. Crocs, who I was riding with for a little while, in 23rd. S. Clark, 24th. M. Blundell, who caught me and then finished well ahead of me in the end, in 25th. Me in 26th, and AH, who I was trying to stay ahead of for as long as possible, in 27th. Awesome racing, everyone. So not my best of races. I think it shows I've got a little way to go to get back to where I was before, although I've never really been that good at staying in the group on a hill. That was quite a longish hill for me. It's sort of similar to the Champs-Élysées, where that climb up, I can do it a couple of times, but the third or fourth time keeping you in the group I really, really struggle. So maybe it's an element of that as well. And following last week's video, I came into this week thinking, right, it's time to get everything sorted, get on the bike more often. And I just walked straight into a really, really busy Monday and Tuesday. I didn't have time to get on the bike either of those days or focus on anything. So I jumped on the bike on Wednesday and did Tour of Mercury Stage 2 just to tick that one off. And this is the one that goes up to the tree in Mercury Islands, which is a bit of a climb in itself. I tried to stay at about 200 watts for the climb. So I stayed with the group pretty much. I formed this little group up before we got to the climb, and then I knew I'd lose them, which I did. Tried to stick to about 200 watts up the climb itself, nice steady pace. And then I found myself in with a couple of other riders as we came down the hill, and I found myself in a sprint to the line. I tried to go early and I made a massive mistake. On the downhill before we get to the sort of flat before the line, I was putting out like 3.5 watts per kilo, just trying to get a bit of a breakaway. And the person behind me was doing 1.5 watts per kilo, I think, and keeping up with me easily. And by the time we got to the line, I kind of burnt all my matches, and I was beaten just on the line. I went into that thinking I'm just going to have a nice casual ride, and ended up in a sprint finish. But definitely enjoyed it, and I think that's why I really felt it in my legs. I don't
as I mentioned in the video of the race, I don't usually race or ride the day before one of our races, just because it's not. I'm so recently I've been so stuck in doing the T2.5 rides, I just haven't done anything else. So, and we don't have one on a Wednesday, so I don't normally ride on a Wednesday. But maybe that was a bit of, I didn't feel that my cardio was what was holding me back in the race on Thursday. It was just more, I couldn't push my legs. I could really feel it in my legs. So maybe that was it. Who knows? Hopefully it continues to get better. Anyway, I didn't ride on Friday, but I did jump on Saturday to do the new areas in Mercury. Now, we've done the race in the new area, and we picked, what was the route called? It was called Turf and Surf, that we did on Saturday during the group ride. And that is a really nice route. Not one that I would necessarily enjoy yet myself as part of a race or a ride, because it's got a couple of hills in there. But for picturesque scenery and just a nice casual ride, it was really, really nice. Frustrated with myself because I forgot to record it, so I can't put any of the video in. But I highly recommend that route in the new Mercury section. It's something I'll probably go back to. And my overall impression of the new Mercury routes are positive. I think they're quite interesting. There's lots of things to spot as you ride around. When Neokio came out, I was very positive about that, but I don't find myself desperate to go and ride Neokio, and I think that's because it's all a bit samey. It's nice it was nice as it was something completely different to what Zwift had before, but actually when you're riding around it, it all feels very similar to the other roads. This, I think, the new section, Urukazi, has some nice little sections in its own right with interesting climbs that sort of switch back on each other. So yeah, we'll obviously be doing more of those rides as part of our group as we go forward and putting them into our ride schedule. I'm looking forward to ticking off the other routes that form part of the new segments as well. Let's talk a bit about diet, because that's got to form part of the change as well. I mentioned in the last video that I'm not going to go back onto keto just for the financial reasons. I've had lots of comments in videos and things about saying it's not good for you, especially for cyclists. You need to eat food, this type of food and that type of food. One thing I will say, I found that I did really well on it. I lost 2.5 stone nearly. I felt strong on the bike. I felt I could push for longer. I recovered quickly. I'm still feeling, it's Sunday now, I'm still feeling the race and the rides from this week in my legs. And it feels like it's a constant thing, where before I was recovering quickly, I was ready to go again the next day. So it's not for any other reason than financially, because I actually feel it was doing me a lot of good, getting the weight off and riding better. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow a calorie controlled diet, 2,000 calories a day. You have to burn or have a deficit of 1,000 calories to lose 2 pounds a week. But I'm going to make it a little bit simpler on myself. Eat 2,000 calories a day to make sure I'm not under eating. And then I've got a Garmin watch, obviously links. It has my daily burn plus any activity that I do, as accurate as you believe they are. But anything over 3,000, I will possibly add and eat slightly more. So I've given myself a motivation and a carrot, essentially, to get on the bike, burn more calories, because it means I could possibly have a treat or, have a little bit of extra dinner or whatever it might be, whilst keeping 1,000 up to 1,000 calorie deficit a day. And that kind of then doesn't put too much pressure on me if I've got to eat 1,600 calories a day to fit within, £1,000 definite deficit a day, if that makes sense. I hope it does. But that's the plan. If I haven't explained that well, let me know below and I'll have another go in the next video. But that is my plan going forward. Really pleased to say we have a new channel member. David Stark has signed up on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member on there. It means a lot, as do all of the other channel members that are going up the screen right now. Your support is amazing. If you want to come along to T2.5 rides, all the information is in the description below. We've got race number 3 of the World Tour coming up next Sunday. Keep an eye out for that as well. Get yourself signed up, get yourself some points. Slightly hillier one, that one. That's going off the Epic KOM. So, yeah, our first properly hilly race. But all the T2.5 information and rides are in the description below this video. But that is the end of the video. If you have enjoyed it, do hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.